Welcome to the ParentNet podcast by Focus on the Family Singapore. In each episode, we will be speaking with everyday parents and practitioners as they share with us gems from their parenthood journey. Keep tuning in to learn with us as we figure it out together.
Hello and welcome to the ParentNet podcast. My name is Aaron and I'm your host for this episode. Many men today wrestle with their masculine identity, torn between projecting strength and suppressing vulnerability, yet also yearning to express their authentic, tender selves. How do we raise our boys to find that healthy balance and to embrace resilience without denying our weakness and vulnerabilities? With me in our studio today is Eric Loh, a school teacher and a father of four. He'll be sharing more insights on the challenges of raising boys with strong character and values. Welcome to our ParentNet podcast, Eric. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm a father of four, 3 sons and a daughter. My eldest son is 27 years old, the second one is 24, third is 21, my youngest daughter is 17 and she just recently graduated from her Sec 4 and just received her O-level results. So I'm free now actually, haha. I'm married only once to my ex-girlfriend for the last 28 years. Yes, as a PE teacher for the last 30 over years, we do run adventure camp for the Sec 1 and 2. And one thing that I do realize in the last couple of years, I would say especially after COVID, and that is more and more boys are crying. And they're asking their parents to pick them home. You may say that probably some of them are choking, but I think that it's important for us parents, especially father, to raise our child, our sons well. And that's why I'm happy to be here today.
So for our listeners who do not know what chowking means, it's like skiving, it's a term that we use in the army, right? When the person wants to opt out of activities. So you mentioned earlier that there are more of such cases where boys are saying, no, I don't want to be part of this. I want to be at home and I want my mommy at 13 years old.
Yeah, indeed. This is something that we have observed in the last 3 years. I've been teaching for the last 30 years. And in the first 20 over years, I don't see such trend. But I would say after the COVID, we are seeing more and more of this. So it is worrying, and I thought it's important for us to do this together well.
So in your experience, what are some essential traits that perhaps dads can uniquely instill in their sons? Traits that perhaps only the father can do, and a father can do very powerfully.
I remember when I was 13 years old, my boys brigade captain shared this 3-letter word with us. And it has been something that I've been reminded year after year. The word FAT, letter F-A-T. In parenting my boys, it's a 3-letter that I kept on drumming to them. First of all, F stands for being faithful. I said to the boy, if you're faithful in a small thing, then I believe one day people will trust you with the big things. If I can't trust you with $1, do you think I can come to you with $1,000 for you to invest? So be faithful in small things. Next, A for avail to help. Instead of just using your eye power and say, what can I do? Why don't you use your hand and leg and start making a difference? And last but not least is T, teachable. We will need people to come and share with us how we can grow better, how we can do better. And I believe that feedback is actually a gift. So be teachable so that you become stronger, you become wiser. So these are the 3 letters that I have been instilling in my children all this while,
So can you share perhaps an example of how you have instilled being faithful through your sons?
One thing is, I say to them, we have a study routine in our family. So it's from 7 to 8 o'clock every night. Now after that, then they can go into probably their games. So in an hour, 1 hour, just be faithful to do your revisions. And I believe it will go a long way to help you, to cope with your studies. So that's one example.
So you've been actually practicing this since they were young and now they are in their 20s. I believe they are disciplined in their own ways. They can handle their own schedules without you having to remind them. And I think that little things that you instilled when they were young really pays off dividends as they grow older. Is there any other personal anecdotes? You mentioned the last one about T, right? Being a teachable person, how can that apply for them?
In growing up, I make a lot of mistakes and I refused to listen to advice from my parents. My relationship with my father was really, not the best. So of course, that's something I don't want my boys to go through. So being teachable, I still remember my second son. when he was thinking about whether, should go for command school or just skive and be a storeman. So I told him, boy, just be open. And if the opportunity arises, that kind of thing, when you speak to your PC, just do your best. Because when you do your best, I believe you will grow, you see. But you skive, after 2 years, you probably will say, I wasted 2 years of my life. And I'm thankful that my second boy, he actually went through OCS and he passed, he did well. And today, when I speak to him, I see that his perspective about NS, about the future of Singapore is very different. And I'm thankful for that.
You mentioned earlier about having a relationship with your dad that wasn't probably the ideal for yourself, right? And I guess some of our listeners perhaps also have a similar experience. Maybe their own relationship with their father hasn't been ideal for them. How then can we translate all these traits, right, to our son if we have not learned before?
It took me a while to finally come to terms with building a relationship with my father. And I have a lot to be thankful to my wife, who will constantly tell me, he is your father after all. I guess some of this wise stuff has actually rubbed and helped us in this relationship. So one of the things that I am a lot more intentional is I visit him once a week. I even share this with my wife. Before we were married, I said, this is something that I will not negotiate, And that is, I need to visit my parents on a weekly basis. And she will say, why? Why do we need to do this? And my answer to her is, wouldn't you like it one day if our boys come back to us on a weekly basis? Would you want that? I said, of course. Then be that role model. So I get the key idea here is being a role model. When we role model with authenticity, the children pick it up. So that is one example. The second thing is to honor them. I don't earn a lot, but I think it will be quite comfortable for me to probably just have a monthly allowance that I give to my parents. And I model it by giving to my parents in the presence of my children, so that at least they learn that it's important to set aside some funds to honor your parents in action, not just words. So I think key thing is about being a role model.
So what are some challenges you think that boys face today that perhaps differ from previous generation, or at least from your generation?
I will sum it up PMS. First of all, is really the pressure from the social media, whether it's online bullying or maybe a certain expectation that you have to look a certain way. This does give the young people a lot of pressure in an unnecessary way. And the second one is really the mental health struggle. I do realize, again, in the last 3 years after the COVID, that a lot of my students are coming to us and say that I'm feeling very lonely. I don't seem to have any friend that I can relate to. And they're asking us, teachers, whether we can actually come up with a course to help them to become friends, to make friends. So I think that mental health struggle is the other problem that a lot of boys or students are facing today.
And how about S?
The last one, S, I would say, is how do we define success? If the kids don't laterally follow that school system of doing well in the O-levels, A-levels, can they find other paths to find meaning in what they do? My third son, I don't think he did very well in his poly. So he's having a bit of a struggle as to which course to go after this. But we have been assuring him that you don't have to go to university so that you are successful. As long as you do well in whatever you're given, I believe success will knock on your door. So something that I think father has to speak that into the life of the boys, that we are not defined by academic success. We are defined by what we do well.
So a summary, P will be talking about the pressures that the boys face. M is the mental health struggles and the challenges that they are experiencing in this generation. And as for success, what does it look like, in this day and age where it's not limited to just academics? So in your school, when you're walking the grounds, when you're interacting with your students, do you see mental health struggles becoming a bit more pronounced amongst the boys? Or is this something that they won't even say that they're struggling? It could be a silent thing that they are facing, but they don't tell the adults, they don't tell their parents.
I would say when I was growing up as a boy, we don't have a lot of boys telling you, that they are struggling with mental health. But now that schools actually implement what we call a termly survey, we do see a lot more boys and girls actually crying in the sense of saying that I'm struggling. I have no friends. I need help. So this is actually a good thing. We do know that people are now sharing with you that there are issues. But I think the challenge is how do we actually help them in a systemic way? So this is something schools are still working towards to do better lah.
So on one hand, boys are probably taught it by society, that you need to behave a certain way, right? You need to be strong, you need to provide for your family, you need to be successful, and they portray a certain image. But yet at the same time, the struggles that they're facing are very real, like when they are weak, when they're feeling tired, or when they're feeling lonely, like you mentioned earlier, or when they're missing home, right? For those example of those who are in camp for the first time. So there's this tension that boys are facing. On one hand, I need to be getting ready for life, to be independent. On the other hand, I'm still a child, perhaps, and I'm still developing. Can you shed some light as in how fathers can support their sons when they're going through this tension?
To me, parenting is not just what a father can do, but what the father and mother can do. So my belief is that every child needs a mother and a father. So together with my wife, we have come up with this thing called parenting with C. We are very intentional that the first C is to connect with God. That is where every day, after the studies from 7 to 8, 8 to 8:30, we sit together and we read a passage of scripture and we also connect with one another. That's the first C. The second C is connect with authority, and that is respect authority. As a former DM of the school, I actually told my sons, all my 3 sons who were studying in my school, if they create any problem, they will have to face the consequence for their actions. And I still remember my son asking me, why can't you be like my friends' parents? When they get in some trouble, they know that they can ask their parents to stand up for them, but you will never stand up for us. So my answer to them is very simple. There's a natural sequence in life. If you sow rambutan seed, you hope that the tree will grow rambutan fruits. So if you sow disobedience, you will have to face the consequence. I can't take you out of that because then I'm not helping you to grow up to be that responsible person that you should be. So connectedness with authority, I think, is important. And I think the last connectedness is the community. We learn that no man is an island. When they're young, you need the family support. But when they reach a certain age as teenager, the kind of friendship that they need to forge is very, very important in their overall growth. So we were very intentional to fit our schedule, our holidays, around the church calendar, around the school calendar, so that the boys are able to attend all the different camps, all the different activities. And we are thankful that today the boys grew up with a very strong community of support. This is what I mean by parenting with C.
You mentioned about community, and I believe probably you and your wife probably know your son's friends very well as well. They probably come over to your place, they hang out. Is this something that happens?
Yeah. So much so that my neighbors, when we see them, if we don't know them, they will say, oh, you are the family with a lot of children. First of all, they say, oh, you have 4 children. And a lot of time we see lots of young people going to your house. Yeah, we actually open up our homes for our children to invite their friends to come over. And I think it's really a joy to be able to see that the kind of friends that they're with and the kind of activity they do. This is something that we're thankful for.
And I guess it's also where your children's friends can see family life being modeled, how your responsibilities are played out in the house when they help out in the chores. And now talking about, like responsibilities and everything, as fathers, right, how can we then balance discipline? Because, life is not so straightforward all the time, right? Where your child behaves well every single day. There'll be times where you probably need to step in and say, okay, there are consequences that you need to face in the home. How do you manage this discipline aspect?
So as a father, I believe that the child has to go through the consequence. Now, each time when I meet up the consequence, I will also have time alone with my sons. I will just say that despite all that you have gone through, I just want to show you that I love you because you are my son and I'm your dad. So I want to journey with you through this thing so that you become stronger. So I will assure them their value as their father and son relationship. But there is a natural consequence that you still got to go through.
So you take time to debrief with your child when discipline is met, and you actually reaffirm them that you are still present as a father and you love them. What kind of advice would you give to parents and educators to work together in engaging and shaping a young person, a young man?
Every child needs a father and a mother. Sometimes, instead of man and woman working together, in reality, if we're not careful, we are working against each other, although we all share the common goal of wanting the best in our child. Now, for example, my wife should be very happy to clean up the cups, and utensil for the kids after use, because that's a love language. She loved them because through her service. As for me, the husband, the father, I feel that the child should be responsible to clean it after use. So often or not, sometimes this led to disagreement between my wife and I. After many years of practice, many heartache, I decided, okay, I'll practice more self-control. I will be less harsh. And the way now I approach this whole thing, if I see cups on the basin, I'll just take a photo and send it to the family chat and say, guys, please remember to clean it up. And my wife is happy because I'm no longer so harsh. She, on the other hand, she will continue to wash. But once in a while, I do see her telling the children, can you be more responsible so that I will not get scolded from my husband in a joking manner? I think we work together. I think we must remember that we have to work together to grow our children. And that's important.
How about working with educators?
I think there are two hats that we need to wear. First of all, we need to understand that as educator, when we put on the hat of teacher, we have a certain protocol that we need to observe. So it's important for us to also consider the feeling of the parent and then engage the parents as partner. And when we are able to do that well, I believe trust will be built between the teacher and the parents. And this will go a long way to help the children. We don't want a case where the teacher says, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to have anything to do with these parents because these parents are always so protective. And at the same time, the parents say, I don't want to have anything to do with this teacher because he or she is so biased. I think this is no good for the student, for the child.
You mentioned earlier that the students are actually saying that I need a class on how to make friends. And I've just read a report recently. It's a survey by the National Youth Council. From the year 2013 to about 2022, there seems to be about a 10% drop in the number of friends that a young person have. In the past, they will have more than 5 good friends. But now, having 2 to 3 good friends is probably like the cap that they have. So do you see this happening as well? And how can teachers encourage boys to make friends in class?
In my school, we have what we call a weekly form teacher group time. And that's a time where the kids come together, organize some kind of activities that they can play together. So this structure does actually helps to bring about that kind of what we call student to students relationship. So that is one structure that we can do. And the other thing I think which is doing well and that is I think it's good that the government, the ministry is coming out and say that the handphone now cannot be so freely used. Because we know as adults, when we have the phone, we can even ignore the people around us. So now with the phone in a locker and whatever, I hope that during the recesses, during the free time, kids will have a time to really play with one another. And this should help to bring about the relationship that we hope to see in times to come.
Yeah, as parents also, we are guilty of using our mobile devices over meal times. And now, with our children not being able to use their mobile devices in the whole day, they're probably going to use it when they're back home, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, at the same time, it's so precious when we have that one-on-one time with our sons, with our daughters, that we are able to engage them face-to-face without our devices interrupting those conversations. Yeah, it's so great to have you here, Eric, and thanks for sharing so many important insights on the topic of raising boys. But before we wrap up, do you have any final words of encouragement for parents listening in?
I would say the best gift that you can give to your children is to love your wife if you want your husband and vice versa. So work on the relationship, and when a relationship is strong, I think you can really give all that you could for your children. Thanks.
Thank you so much for sharing all these insights and for being here with us. For more of our parenting resources, you can go to family.org.sg/subscribe. And if this episode resonated with you, hit follow to stay connected. Leave us a review or share it with a friend or your community. That's it for today, so do keep tuning in to the ParentNet podcast to learn and grow in your parenting journey.